What is editing in film? Editing in film is the art and craft of cutting and assembling a finished film. It is the long process of putting together a movie using different techniques and transitions, all done by an editor. In this video, we're going to be discussing 14 different editing techniques and video transitions used in film. The cut. The cut, also known as the hard cut, is the most common editing technique used in film. A cut is quite simply cutting from one shot to another, or from one scene to another. A cut is a great way to have a sudden and abrupt transition between two scenes. However, a cut can become confusing to an audience if done poorly. For example, cutting between two scenes that have no relation to each other can disorient viewers and can feel as if information is missing from the scene. But if you manage to do it right, you can help the story move forward and give the audience a new perspective. Cutting on action. Cutting on action is when you cut between shots in a scene based off the action in the frame. This type of transition can help the movement in a scene flow smoothly and help give weight to any action on screen. It's most commonly found in action sequences, but can be used for simple motion like turning or passing someone an item. The match cut. A match cut is when you cut between two shots that have similar action or are similar in their composition. They can even have similar sounding audio. The point is that the shots match each other. Match cuts are a great way to show connection or contrast between two scenes, and can feel as if there is a logical or thematic connection between the shots, even if they aren't related at all. They are great ways to show a passage of time, whether that's small or large, a change in location, or a change in a character's development, and overall are seen to be some of the greatest and most recognizable moments in cinema. The jump cut. The jump cut, not to be confused with a montage, is when you cut between multiple different shots that are all similar in composition, or one shot with the middle of the clip removed. Using a jump cut is a great way to give energy to any fast-paced moment, or to give comedic effect. On the contrary, it can also be used to give a euphoric, dreamlike feeling to your scene, or to exaggerate drama and get into a character's head. The cutaway. A cutaway is when the camera cuts away from the main action. It's usually done with an insert shot or a POV shot pointing in the opposite direction as the previous shot. They are used to give extra information to a scene or to keep up with continuity, but overall are a great way to show important elements of the story without having to tell the audience through exposition. The smash cut. A smash cut is when you abruptly cut from one shot to another. This can be done by going from a relatively calm shot to a violent or unexpected shot without any warning. It can also be done the other way round, with having a violent scene suddenly cutting to a calm scene halfway through the shot. They are used to highlight a dramatic contrast between scenes, but are often used for comedic effect and give the audience a startle. Crosscuts. Cross-cutting is when you switch back and forth between two scenes to show that they are happening at the same time. It usually follows the action and is a great way to heighten the suspense and tension in the scene, as well as raising the stakes for the audience without the characters knowing. However, a crosscut is often confused with parallel editing. This is pretty much the same idea, however used differently. You're still cutting between two different scenes, however the scenes are used to create a contrast from one another. Wipe transitions. A wipe transition is a transition technique where one shot replaces another by wiping or moving over the previous shot. They can be done from any direction, or they could be done in shapes like a clock or an iris. The wipe is typically used to transition between different storylines or locations in a film, and it gives a clear separation between the two scenes, indicating we're at a separate part of the story. Invisible cuts. An invisible cut is when you stitch together two scenes with the goal of hiding the transition and making the cut as unnoticeable as possible. This can be done with a still color in frame or with an object passing in front of the camera. It gives a feeling of a seamless cut and sometimes is used to make it seem like the shots were done in one long take. The dissolve. A dissolve is a transition of a shot or scene that gradually changes into another. Originally done with cameras and exposure while filming, they can be done by simply choosing a dissolve effect or slowly lowering the opacity of one clip over the other. These are fairly old transitions that were used a lot in early cinema, but they are a great way of bringing attention to a scene and indicate a change in time and or location. Fade to black or white. A fade to black or a fade to white is when the shot shifts slowly or quickly into one of the two colors. They are usually used at the beginning or ends of a scene to highlight a transition or a break from previous moments. However, they both have their different effects. A fade to black can help make a story feel complete and finished. It's a soft but clear end to a scene or even a film. A fade to white can do the opposite and can leave a viewer to interpret the ending their own way. Leaving it with a fade to white feels unconcluded and incomplete. It can also feel very heavenly, and a lot of the time scenes with a fade from white go into a scene where a character is in a mystical or spiritual realm. Graphics and text. Probably one of the most recognizable editing techniques used in film, graphics and text can be found in everything from comedy, science fiction, and action, and even animation.
Do you like gazpacho?
They're primarily used to introduce a place or a character, but can also be used to give large amounts of exposition. A famous example of this is Star Wars. Graphics and text is a fun, comedic, and efficient way to give information, and a lot of the time are paired with a freeze frame to highlight the information with whatever is in frame. The J cut or the L cut.
Is that your car on the lot?
Yeah,
That's a nice ride.
thanks, man.
County A's off.
Hey.
A J cut is when the audio from a scene starts in the shot before it, giving the cut the appearance of the letter J. It's used to introduce the upcoming scene without startling the audience and letting the viewer know that there's a new scene and that they should pay attention. An L cut is when the audio from a scene continues into the next scene, giving the cut the appearance of the letter L.
The opposite of friendly. He's unfriendly.
And is mostly used for comedic and dramatic moments. However, they can both be used within a scene in moments with dialogue so that the editor doesn't have to cut back and forth constantly while the characters are talking.
Why do we feel it's necessary to yak about bullshit?
The montage. A montage is a series of shots edited together to create a continuous sequence. They allow editors to communicate to the audience large amounts of information over a short span of time by juxtaposing different shots, compressing time, or intertwining different storylines. Most montages use a narrator or have little to no dialogue, and a lot of them are used with groovy or depressing pieces of music to make the scene more memorable and highlight its importance. They can be used to speed up time, to develop characters, make the audience laugh, connect multiple storylines, give the audience a better picture of the film's world or characters, or to create meaning with juxtaposition. There are still plenty of other editing techniques used in the world of editing, however they are not used in as much abundance as the ones I've chosen to discuss. All editing techniques and their effects are based off the opinions of mine and others, so don't feel as though these are definitive. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments, and thank you for watching.